The aim of this video tutorial is to guide you through drawing a phrase structure tree if you have a non-finite clause included in it. If we look at this sentence here, the boy living in the cave had developed the ability of night sight. And what we have here then is we do the first divide, the subject and the predicate, and the first divide is up until here, had. So somebody had developed something is the essence of the sentence. And if we look at that here fully, we'll do this quickly. In the predicate we have a predicator, a verb phrase, and this is had developed. Okay, and this is something I think most of you can now do. Moving over to the direct object, we have, it's a noun phrase, the ability of night sight, and the noun phrase consists of a determiner, a noun, and a post modifier, the ability of night sight. Now, the aim of this tutorial is more to look at a non-finite clause, and in this subject it's the boy living in the cave. So we have the boy, it's the head of the subject, and living in the cave tells us more about the boy. And it's a noun phrase, and that noun phrase consists of a determiner, a noun, and a post modifier. Now one could ask, is living in a cave here an adverbial? Well, technically you could leave it out. Can you move it? Living in the cave, the boy had developed the ability of night sight. So in effect you could say that this is an adverbial, and had you said adverbial I would have marked you correctly. So it's in the noun phrase we have the and the boy, and instead of a post modifier we're suggesting that it might be an adverbial, which it could well be. So it depends. If there were many boys here, are we describing this particular boy in comparison to the other boys? Do you see what I'm saying? It depends on the contextual situation. So if I write here, it could have been a post modifier or an adverbial or post modifier, depending on how you see it. But either way, it's a non-finite clause. And what does a non-finite clause look like? It looks like this, living in a cave. So then you go back to the top level again, and if I draw your attention here, we're looking at the non-finite clause, living in a cave, and there's a subject and a predicate if we take it the whole way through, but the subject's empty. It had the potential of being a clause. It's a wannabe. In the predicate we have living somewhere, and I analyze this as an adverbial complement. And so the adverbial complement is realized as a prepositional phrase in the cave. I haven't done that in detail, but you know how that works. Meanwhile, if we look at the predicator, well, there's a lexical verb, living, but this is empty. It had the potential of being a finite clause, but it's a non-finite clause. Okay, and that's if you take it down the whole way through. If I now look upon one more example, we looked a little while ago at some sentences from Lord of the Rings. I have desired to look upon the kings of old for long. Well, how would we have this then? So it's I have desired something, and I think the subject part is okay. You're there. In the predicate we have a predicator, I have desired. Right, so we could do that if you want. That's a verb phrase. And in the verb phrase we have a help, and we have a lexical verb. So that part you're okay about, I think. I have desired something for long, and this is the prepositional phrase here. You could you move this? For long I have desired to look upon the kings of old. So this is an adverbial in the predicate, not a part of the direct object. But we're looking at to look upon the kings of old, and that's a non-finite clause, to look upon. So if we this non-finite clause we look at here, to look upon the kings of old, then how is this? Remember, once again, it's a non-finite clause. It could have had the potential to be a finite clause. So the subject is once again empty. And so there's nothing there. That's empty. And in the predicator, we have, now it's to look upon. This is an older usage. This is, as you might have read in chapter 5, it's one of these phrasal verbs. It's like pick up, put down. It's a phrasal verb. So we just have this as a lexical verb, but it's non-finite because it has this to form. It's a non-finite lexical verb. And in the direct object, we have the kings of old. So to look upon something. But the point I think you are asking about, and what this video tutorial shows, is that you have, in this case, a lexical verb, but there's no finite verb here, and there's no subject. And because there's no finite verb, and also in this case no subject either, it therefore makes it a non-finite clause. And that's the end of this tutorial.